Welcome to Soul-Led Creative Women, the podcast for heart-centered creative women who are ready to reclaim their spark and live with deeper meaning, authenticity, and soul. Hey, Sam here. This episode is part of a new format I'm trying out. I want to make this space more about soulful, real-time creative connection. So each month, in addition to a single guest episode, I'll be exploring a soulful theme and guiding you through a mini soulful creative ritual. There'll be 3 of these episodes each month, starting with a soul activation meditation, an invitation for you to try a soulful art-based prompt, and a poetry mini-sode. Ritual is the container I use to guide my clients to really embody soulful creativity for personal healing, self-discovery, and empowerment. I invite you to follow along and join the conversation inside the Soul-Led Creative community. Join for free today at samhorton.co/community. So today I have Taryn Voget with me. Taryn is the founder of Genius Lab and the host of the Everyday Genius Show. For the past 15 years, she's helped thousands of people, founders, creatives, and everyday folks discover their hidden genius and turn it into powerful next chapters. She's here to help you find the passion, clarity, and strategy to create the life, career, or business you were meant for. So welcome, Taryn.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited about this conversation.
So, today we're going to explore specifically how creativity can help guide you to find your inner genius. So, let's start with your story, Taryn. Tell us about your journey and how creativity has supported you in finding your own genius.
Well, my journey is a bit of a winding path, not necessarily a straight line. Out of college, I went into consulting and I did big corporate consulting for a lot of years. And then one day I burned out on it and got to this point where I thought, I've worked on everyone else's project. I want to do my own. And I kind of had this list of criteria, something that had never been done before, something that would be innovative, something that would help people, something that I would find fun. And I was driving over the Golden Gate Bridge one day, and I was living in Sausalito, which is just north of the city, driving over the Golden Gate Bridge, and this bolt of lightning, literally like a bolt of lightning, hit my head. And in a flash like that, I saw the whole idea for what was at the time the Everyday Genius Institute. And the idea was that I would take people that would be really brilliant or genius at what they do, deconstruct how they do it, and then package it back up in a book and a DVD set so that people could learn strategies of genius from the world's best. Because what I discovered is that when people get really good at things, they actually have no idea how they do it. And that led me down this journey of genius where I've spent the last 15 years researching genius and really understanding how it works and how creativity ties into that. And in the process of all of this, I've had a lot of creative output myself. I've written a bunch of books and made videos and products and built companies. I kind of went back into the corporate world and started helping companies kind of redesign how they were working and operating. So,
Mhm.
creativity, I think, takes so many shapes and forms. And where does creativity come from? I think is such a great question.
Awesome. So, tell us more about the concept of genius then. What does that term mean to you and why have you been so drawn to it?
Well, genius is a really charged word.
Mm,
And people often think that genius is this mega genius that, does these world changing things. They have a Wikipedia page and people talk about them for generations, 1 in 1 billion or 1 in 10 billion. And while that is a kind of genius, I am much more interested in the everyday genius because I see that kind of genius around us all the time. And I think it's really interesting, these moments of utter brilliance that just everyday people have that maybe they don't have a Wikipedia page. And I think one of my biggest, I'll call it pet peeves with the way the world works is that there's this idea that you could somehow measure your genius on an IQ test. I don't know where this, actually, I do know where the idea came from, but it's a terrible idea. And even the inventors of the test said, that's actually, you really can't measure intelligence on a test. That's a very one-dimensional way of thinking. And many people don't know this, but the genius level hasn't been the highest score on the test since like 1934. It's now like
okay.
very exceptional or very gifted is the highest level. It's
Okay.
not the genius level. Another fun fact, Albert Einstein never took the IQ test. Um, so, I don't like this idea that you could somehow measure somebody's brilliance on a test, but what it got me to do was really go down this journey of like, what is genius? How does it work? Where does it come from? And how do you know if something is genius? And what I discovered bringing people into my genius lab and deconstructing on a very subconscious level how they do what they do. Because when you get really good, so much of what you're doing is automatic and it happens very fast like that in your mind. And so how do you take those split seconds and unpack what is about 30 to 50 steps in a split second of thinking, which is really what happens when you get good at something. And so in my Genius Lab, we do that. We slow that process way down and really uncover kind of how the magic trick of genius works. And what I've discovered is that genius is actually not really best described as a noun, like she is a genius.
Mm-hmm.
It's much better as a verb.
Okay.
She is geniusing because it's a process.
Okay.
And it's a process when three things come together. Number one, someone's operating from passion. They are fired up about what they're doing. And that passion not only creates the fuel to keep going and iterating and getting better, but it also puts you in a higher vibrational state. Like if you
Mm-hmm.
think of sadness as a vibration and
Mm-hmm.
happiness as a vibration and excitement is like even higher. When you're in that high vibrational state, you actually have access to more ideas in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So when someone is acting on their passion or their excitement, they're just jazzed about what they're doing. And it could be anything. They love painting, they love parenting, they love swimming. It really doesn't matter. Like you're jazzed about the thing, and it doesn't have to be your full-time job, by the way. That just gives you access to a lot more ideas and inspiration and synchronicities by being in that energy.
Mm.
And so you always wonder how people get so successful. Well, they're in that energy enough to create that kind of success and those ideas that then take them to the next level and the next level. So passion is really the foundational element of genius, and genius is really about focus over time.
Mm-hmm.
So then how do you get good? Well, that passion kind of drives you. You always want to get better. You want to bake your blueberry muffin the best the next time and then the next time and the next time, right? And so that develops what I call better strategy. It's like how you do it. And when you're first learning something, your strategy is really usually very simple, like just do the basics of the thing. And as
Mm-hmm.
you get better, your strategy gets more refined, more sophisticated, more nuanced. You pull in more information. And so strategy is like the how. How do you get to mastery? It's just by continuous improvement and getting better every time. And I talk a lot about the elements that go into like strategy because there's a bunch of them, but let's just put that
Mm-hmm.
bucket into like
Mm-hmm.
how you're doing it as strategy. And then the third element, and this is I think where creativity often comes into play, is what I call channeling. And we all do this. It sounds like a big fancy spiritual word. It's really not. Like as humans, we are designed to tap into something bigger than us and have ideas flow through us. And there's so many ways people do this. They get up and they go for a walk and an idea pops into their head. That's why you get good ideas in the shower because you're not really thinking. Or people get into writing and they get in these flow states, or athletes talk about being in the zone where kind of time stops and there is no other option but to win. And so those are all examples of how we tap into something bigger than us and that energy flows through us into a creation. And we use our intention, our passion, and our strategy to focus that into something that we want to create.
Mm.
And so this is why I say genius is a verb. It's like when those three things come together enough, passion plus good strategy, like you get better at it, and you can channel something really cool through you because you've got good strategy and focus. That is often what looks to others like genius when it can kind of happen consistently enough.
Mm-hmm.
And it just takes time to get there.
Sure.
But there's always these musicians. I always think of like the one hit wonders. Sometimes you can just channel something really brilliant through and it was a singular moment, and
Yeah.
sometimes you have a hard time recreating it.
Yeah.
Um, and other times it's the day in, day out, you've been able to bring these elements together and it looks like genius every time.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say genius is a verb. It's because it's the act of doing all of these things. And it's when it comes together often enough, it can look like genius. But the world is not a very good judge of genius, especially in the moment, especially if the idea is new or big.
Mm-hmm.
And there's countless examples of people like Van Gogh who were
Yeah.
just utterly not noticed in their life. So, we
Dismissed.
can't always rely on the outer world to be a judge of our genius, especially if the idea is innovative or new.
So, the word that was popping into my mind as you were explaining all of that is confidence. I get the sense that you can't really be a genius or be ingenious as the verb, unless you've got this inner confidence. So when all of those three things that you described are kind of working and in flow, is that what happens? Do we become so confident that, we're able to push ourselves further than we could go if we didn't have that strong belief system?
I think that's a really insightful point around confidence. So then you got to ask yourself, well, what builds confidence?
Yeah.
And confidence is built by doing something hard or doing something scary and
Yeah.
being on the other side of it. And so passion is often what will get you to do these things that are scary and things that are hard. And when you do them, you just get a little more confidence and a little more confidence. And that's really what mastery feels like. It feels like somebody is so at ease at what they're doing because they've done it not even 10,000 times, 100,000 times, that there's confidence in that.
Yeah.
And then that's when, because you're kind of relaxed in a thing, you can often open up to channel cooler
Yeah.
stuff through you. So this is where you need a bit of mastery to channel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's a strange thing because if you sit in this kind of self-doubt and this like limited belief system, you're never going to get the steam or the confidence to be able to tap into that kind of genius world. That's what it feels like to me as you're explaining it. So, yeah, fascinating. So, do you believe that we've all got this inner genius then? What does that mean for the everyday person? I know that everyday genius is one of your brands. So, yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, and this is where the word is so interesting because you can use it in multiple ways. I think everybody has a genius, meaning that's that special spark in their spirit or their soul that really is almost like their unique thumbprint in the universe. And it's like the thing that kind of lights them up if they were to tap into it. So everybody has a genius. Now, not everybody is activating their genius.
Sure.
And this is where, like you mentioned, a lot of people have limiting belief systems, or there's been tough situations in their life or trauma or circumstances, whatever it is, that have not enabled people to really connect into what lights them up.
Hmm.
But most people at some level at least do a little bit of that, even if it's not their day job. They develop hobbies, and this is why hobbies are so great, is because sometimes it's not your day job, but your hobby's fun. And so that's where that passion can kind of come online. So everybody has a genius, and then when you act on your passion and your excitement in whatever context you're doing that in, you start geniusing, and you go through that process that I talked about. And then at some point, it looks like you are a genius. um, but that's kind of the way I would use those words is, but everybody has it, and how much is it activated, and how much are you kind of focusing that passion over time to get better and make it like a cool output.
Like a commitment, it's like a practice,
Hmm.
a genius
Hmm.
practice rather than a genius, landmark or destination.
That's a really nice way to put that. A genius practice. I'm going to borrow that. I like that because it is. And what excites us at one moment in our life completely changes and something else excites us later. And I think what that is often about is that I often, when I have people in my Genius Lab, I'm really tracking intuitively at a very high level, like what is that soul gift? Like what really is their soul gift? And then you can see how that gift is expressed in all these different contexts. Like to give you an example, I had the CEO in my Genius Lab. She's really brilliant. Sold her company for a metric ton of money. And when I really tracked what her genius was, it was that she was just really good at seeing up ahead what was going to come and guiding people to a new future. Like that was just how I saw it in her spirit. And what she had was a company that did exactly that. They kind of saw these new tech trends and then got big, huge companies on board with new technology that they, were kind of lumbering around, and she would help them really like step into the next, like decade really. And then when she sold her company, she started doing that, but with younger career women. So she'd really help these younger career women in their 20s, maybe early 30s, try to see what was up ahead in their career and create the right roadmap to get there. And so it was the same genius, just in very different contexts.
Hmm.
And so I think this is why we develop different passions, is that we've got this genius and then we kind of explore it through one expression. We kind of feel like we did that. And
Hmm.
then a new kind of interest comes online. And then we explore that expression of our genius and we get good at that. And then over time, you start stacking all these skills. And at the end of, a bunch of decades, you've got this incredible toolkit of skills, or toolbox of skills, because you've been following your passion, building all these skills, but it's all in support of a bigger genius that you can really
Hmm.
share with the world.
Hmm. So is genius really tied to purpose then? Is that how interrelated are
Yeah.
those two terms?
I spent so many years of my life just being like, God, if someone could just tell me my purpose, if I could
Yeah.
just get the cosmic memo from the universe, like, Taryn, your purpose is, then I would know what to do. I'd know how to focus. I'd feel fulfilled in all of this. And so I just, for decades, just kept feeling like, God, what's my purpose? And then actually, somewhat recently, this big light bulb went off as to like how purpose actually works. Two things. Number one is purpose is really what you assign it to be. If you want your purpose to feed the hungry and make a dent in that way, that
Mm-hmm.
is your purpose. Like you've decided that for yourself. If you want your purpose to make people happy and that's your purpose, then you can assign that purpose to yourself. It's like kind of like your purpose is whatever you want it to be. But here's the second part to this. So there's no memo from the universe just waiting to be unscrolled and read, like your purpose is. It's really like whatever you want it to be. And so you get to decide. And that really jams up a lot of people because it's a big commitment to decide what your purpose is. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think it's almost too big, but some people really do find that and they really do have these, passionate things inside them. But here's what I discovered. It's even deeper than that. When you're doing what lights you up and you're really doing what brings you joy and excitement and happiness, regardless of whether it sells, whether the world cares, any of it, when you're just doing it because you want to do it and it lights you up, you actually stop asking the question. And what happens is you start feeling like you're on purpose and the question fades away and you're like, this is it. This is my thing.
That's really cool. I love that. That's so good.
Mhm,
Good.
mhm.
So, what are we missing then in the like traditional life roadmap that we've sort of been conditioned to buy into, and how does this concept of the everyday genius really help to tackle that?
I've been on my own journey with this, which is to clear away the layers of patterning and beliefs and limitations that prevent us from doing one singular thing, which is doing what lights us up in any moment and trusting that that is the path. And it's a lot easier to say, oh yeah, just go follow your passion, but you're dealing with kids and a husband and a mortgage and dogs and life, aging parents, whatever it is. Like a lot of times people just can't see a pathway to, if I do what excites me, how am I going to be supported? And
Mm-hmm.
it it is really scary and it really can often limit people from taking big leaps because they just can't see a way. And so what I think we're missing is that that actually is the way, and our job is to start working through all those limiting beliefs and limitations that are stopping us from doing that, because that really is how the universe is designed to work, which is we follow our joy, we follow our passion.
Mm-hmm.
Our soul knows the roadmap, even if we can't see it, and we develop this unwavering faith that we will be supported
Yeah.
when we do what lights us up. And I'm not saying that that's an easy journey because I've been on it, and I will tell you it is difficult to start clearing away those limiting beliefs, but
Yeah.
it really is magical when you start to do it. Like crazy cool things
Mm.
happen. Mm-hmm.
And it's really fear, that
Fear,
stops,
that's what.
people from entering that path, I guess. So, yeah, really cool.
Yeah. And I think that the biggest limiting belief that many of us carry is that I won't be supported doing what
Yeah.
I love.
Yeah.
Like it's just that simple. And when you can really start to unravel that limiting belief and say, like, well, I can be supported doing what I don't love. Why wouldn't the universe support me doing what I do love? Like
Yeah.
when you kind of start like
Yeah.
thinking of it logically, it
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. But I actually just had a conversation with somebody and they're in their 50s and they are just burned out on their
Yeah.
corporate job.
Mm.
And, he wants to pivot and do this thing, but he's got aging parents live with him,
Yeah.
a daughter in college and two on the way into college in the next couple of years. And he's like, I need this executive income. I can't just go pivot. But what do
Mm.
you do?
Mm.
And these are real questions that people have. And what I would say is, if you're going to choose to stay, then you need to find a way to make it more exciting in some context, or you start limiting that and you really start
Yeah.
amplifying what does excite you until you can somehow gradually make a
Yeah.
pivot, because you always can if you get creative.
Yeah. Yeah. Easier said than done though, right?
Oh, in
It takes a real
100%.
commitment, I think, to,
Yeah, and to not be
to
so
tackle that.
fatigued, and you need energy, and you got
Yeah.
a lot going on in your
Yeah.
life. I mean,
It's a lot.
I'll just give you like a real world example from my own life, which is I've had a lot of fun this last year, really rekindling my passion for everyday genius. And I put out a ton of creative work on videos
Hmm.
and newsletters and
Hmm.
like fun stuff that lights me up. And I knew when I started a year ago it wouldn't probably pay the bills just yet, right? But I just was like, you know what, do it for fun, do it because
Yeah.
you care, do it because you want to get this information out and help people. And I had this idea for a TV show 15 years ago,
Okay.
an Everyday Genius TV show. And I actually talked to a producer about it, but then I sort of set it down and I completely forgot about it until like a year and a half ago. And it just kept knocking at my door, like, pick up the show again, pick up the show again. So I picked it back up and I thought, I'll just do a YouTube show and it'll just be me, and it'll evolve and I'll just get practice back in front of the camera because I hadn't been doing that in a while. And then all this kind of crazy synchronicity started happening. Like money
Okay.
just kind of started showing up in these weird ways that I wasn't even expecting. It wasn't because I was selling anything. It was because life was supporting me in these super random ways.
Mm,
And and then also it was like, and and I'm okay still working a bit, and doing things that
mm.
I definitely enjoy, but I don't want to do full time because I want to do my creative stuff. And so it's like finding that balance of like, I may not make a gajillion dollars this year, but it's enough to finance
Yeah.
my life,
Yeah.
what, and give me time to do this other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
resetting of priorities almost because,
Mhm.
your passion for the thing that you want to do burns stronger. So, yeah, it's really powerful.
Yeah. Do I want to go to Costa Rica and spend 3 weeks writing my next book? Yes. Is
Yes.
that like super realistic right
Yes.
now? No.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, on that, then, in our message exchanges, you said that creativity, has become an act of soul expression for you, turning inner truth into form. Can you tell us about what that looks like specifically for you?
Well, it kind of goes back to like what drives creativity. And I think as humans, we are hardwired to create. That is literally like the job of humans is to create. Now we can create families, we can create relationships, we can create art, we can create great teams. I mean, when you really expand the definition of creativity, there's so many ways we can express our
Hmm.
creativity. And I I think that when we don't do that, we start to shrivel up and die a little bit. And I think so many people limit themselves to like what creativity is. Oh, I don't paint, I don't write, I don't innovate, but that's really not it. It's like this is why I think hobbies are so great. Hobbies are such a great way to like express creativity. One of my very expensive hobbies is interior design. And I
Okay.
move houses a lot just because I feel like I need a new project to design. And I've designed my friends' houses. It's not something I do for work. I do it because I genuinely love the creative
Yeah.
expression of bringing things together.
Hmm.
And so that's what makes us feel alive. And there's a lot of research out there that talks about when you're in that energy of creativity, you actually stop aging and you start
Okay.
reversing a little bit. And so people that are often really creative have this really, they feel very alive. And it's because so much of
Mm,
that energy through the universe is like surging through somebody, like the
mm,
creation energy itself starts surging through you. And when I make my videos or when I, write a newsletter or even when I do my client work or my healing sessions with people, I mean, that is all creative expression
hmm.
because I figured out how to make it mine. I'm not copying
Yeah.
someone else's template. I'm doing it my way.
Yeah.
And so I think that when I see people struggle or they're unhappy or they're not feeling like they're lit up in their passion, it's because they really just aren't, there's no creative expression in their life. And it
Yeah.
doesn't mean a job. It can mean you like baking and cooking, spend a day a
Yeah.
week doing that. It could be anything.
Yeah.
Uh,
So, you mentioned before that creativity is the thing really that helps us to connect to something bigger than ourselves, right? So, where did you realize that? Because I don't necessarily know if everybody knows that.
Yeah, it was actually a somewhat recent epiphany. It was probably a year or two ago. I had someone in my Genius Lab, and I just saw how they channeled an idea. And I say channeled because it was really like in my Genius Lab, like we go real micro, like down to the nanosecond of how somebody does what they do. And what I discovered, and part of it's probably I've just gotten better interviewing people. So this came out finally. It was probably always there. I just never noticed it for a bunch of years until a couple of years ago. I had someone in my Genius Lab and I saw how she literally opened up her whole energy field. And she said she walked through a veil. It gives me chills talking about it. She walked through a veil into blackness. And that's when it all came to her. And I was like, oh, that's where ideas come from. That's where information comes from. It doesn't come from our mind.
Yeah.
It comes from when we tap into the quantum field, which sounds all mystical and mysterious. It's really just the field of energy that we're all connected into when we stop and we feel it. And we've all had those moments where we felt it. We felt connected. We were
Yeah.
at the beach and we just felt like we were connected, or we were playing sport and we felt it. I mean, we all have those moments. And when we connect into that, that is where infinite information, all possibilities, all ideas, it all exists in the quantum field. And when we get in there, and we can tap into that, that's when ideas can flow through us. And that's that like the heart of creativity.
So good. So
Yeah.
I actually believe that our creative journey is heavily linked to our spiritual expansion and evolution. Like they reflect and mirror each other almost, like they're operating in tandem. So have you experienced that kind of mirroring where your creative growth and your spiritual or personal evolution felt really linked for you?
All the time. And if I look back over my life, I can see that this was very much my journey. I always say this about founders and entrepreneurs, like that is the ultimate spiritual path in some ways. I think as creatives, it's also the
Yeah.
ultimate spiritual path
Yeah.
because it's hard,
Yeah.
it's frustrating, it doesn't always work. You know, when you have these brilliant moments, you try to recreate them and you can't because it doesn't always happen on demand.
Yeah.
And so much emotional stuff comes up in these creative
Mm.
processes or in this pursuit to create that forces us to become sort of the next best version of ourselves from moment to moment to moment. And I think creativity can also be very emotional, and sometimes it's really hard to
Mm.
manage these emotional swings.
Mm.
And so it really is a profound spiritual journey. When I say spiritual journey, I mean we become the best version of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that is to me like the spiritual journey. Like, how do you become like the coolest, best
Yeah.
next version of yourself? And when we can really consciously realize how creativity works and tap into that field that is bigger than us, and we can find ways that work for us, because I think it works differently for everybody, then we can really start doing some cool stuff. And that's where
Mm.
I think a lot of power and innovation and ideas and the perfect stories and just all that comes through. I often think of like even just conversations. One of my good friends is a brilliant communicator, and I just watch her in these moments have these conversations, and they're just pure genius. Like her
Mm.
word choice, how she says it, all of
Mm.
that. That is channeled. I mean, that is like
Mm.
legit channeled.
Mm.
And to me, that's creativity. You know, how do you put those words together in a perfect way? And so
Yeah.
it really is about connecting into something bigger.
Yeah. And it's also creating something from nothing, right? Like it's like the
Yes.
blank page, the blank canvas, the blank business, and you're
Yeah.
creating something from absolutely nothing.
And that's when I realized in my Genius Lab, this woman, she says, I walked through this doorway into
Mm.
basically the void where
Yeah.
there is nothing and everything all
Yeah.
at once. And then from there, now you're using your, your intention and your focus. So, yeah, but I need to pull this out of that
Yeah.
and pull that out. And you can literally create something from nothing that is also everything, which is the void, which is kind of a cool concept.
Yeah. It's such a cool concept.
Mm.
So, why do you think then that the creative process is so powerful in helping us to connect to that authentic truth, and building that courage to express ourselves more honestly in life? Is it just because it's that connection to, the spiritual connection, or is the actual process, that cathartic process of creating something, does that really help us to get braver as we're tapping into our, uniqueness and authenticity?
It's everything you just said, which is, yeah, I like the brave part because I think there is a lot of courage in that. A lot of people will create in private, but they won't share it in public, and
Yeah.
that's okay. I mean, I think there's a lot of great
Yeah.
artists who've been discovered later that created in private and it became public later, and that's fine. It doesn't mean you have to share.
Yep.
Um, but sharing is also really takes a lot of courage.
Yeah.
But when, like I said, people think that ideas come from the mind. They don't. They come from the quantum. They come from a bigger
Yeah.
field that we're connected into. And so when we do that, whether we're painting or creating anything, that is us connecting into a bigger part of the universe and therefore
Mm.
ourselves.
Mm.
And that is where we feel more alive, where more magic is, where more is available to us. And it feels good, which is why people get kind of addicted to that kind of creativity sometimes, is because it's a juicy place to reside.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's beautiful. So, what do you wish then that more people knew about the power of creativity for stepping into, our genius and power?
I mean, at the end of the day, it goes back to that foundational element, which is passion for something.
Yeah,
You've got, when you can find a little twinge of excitement
yeah,
for something, follow a curiosity strand, go down a rabbit hole, start creating something that you find interesting. And like I said, it doesn't have to be the day job. It can just be something you do as a hobby
yeah,
or for fun or on a weekend or whatever. But when you really can connect in with that passion, it unlocks all the other pieces.
yeah.
Yeah.
So good. So, for all the women who are ready to claim more of that inner creative genius, what powerful message or question would you like to leave them with today?
Creativity is ultimately a feminine trait. And so when we look at the world, it's tilted very heavily masculine. And yet somehow we manage to hyper, what's the word I'm looking for? Celebrate the feminine, the
Mm.
Taylor Swifts of the world, Beyonce, these really creative geniuses that do really cool things and entertain us with their beautiful creativity.
Mhm.
Um, But the world is tilted pretty masculine. And in order to tilt the world back into balance, we need to bring much more creativity, which is more feminine, back online. So, what I would say to all the women listening and to all the men as well, because I think men all have that feminine aspect within them,
Yeah.
is we bring the world into balance when we bring ourselves into balance. And we bring ourselves into balance by balancing the masculine, which is the linear, I'm going to go for it, I'm going to push, I'm going to do, with the feminine, which is I'm going to create, I'm going to be in flow, I'm going to do what inspires me, I'm just going to be in the moment, right? Like when we can balance these two energies within ourselves, we then create a much more balanced world. And so if you want to do something for humanity, tap into that part of yourself because it balances you and then it therefore balances the world.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. So how can people get to know you, Tara, and get a real feel for the work that you're doing?
One of my favorite things I do, I've talked about it a few times, is my newsletter. It's free. So if you want to find me on Substack, just go to my Substack, Taryn Voget at Substack. And I send it out twice a month. And it's just fun, inspirational, motivational reminders about how you're already geniusing and how you can take that to the next level. So sign up for my Substack. And then from there, you can get to everything else, my YouTube channel and my websites, and book a session with me if you're interested in kind of figuring out your next step. But I really encourage anyone to check out my newsletter. And again, it's free, it just comes out twice a month.
Excellent. Thank you so much for chatting with me today, Tara, and loved our conversation. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Such good questions. Thank you.
Hey, Sam here. Thanks for listening to the end. If you love this episode, I would love to hear from you. Please send me a message on social media. You can find me on Instagram at Sam Horton Studio. For more episodes like this, please subscribe to my podcast, Soul-Led Creative Women, on your favourite platform. You'll find all the links at samhorton.co/podcast. The themes and tools explored in this episode feature in my new online program, Empowered Creative Soul. To find out more and join the waitlist for VIP perks when doors open, please visit samhorton.co. The direct link is in the show notes. Take care.